Why did the US government exchange a Russian arms dealer worth $6 billion for a women's NBA star? To find out, we have to go back to the start. Remember that Nicolas Cage movie, The Lord of War? It's about an immigrant who ends up becoming a wealthy arms dealer. Well, that's loosely based on a guy called Viktor Bout. He's a vegetarian, fan of classical music and art, and he speaks 6 languages. But beneath his image of being a legitimate businessman, Bout had a darker side. Born in the Soviet Union in 1956, Viktor Bout rose through the ranks of the Soviet military. He's what's known as a polyglot, which is someone who can speak multiple languages. Bout speaks Portuguese, English, French, Arabic, and Farsi. This led to him becoming a translator in Angola. This military background gave him the perfect opportunity to take advantage of the fall of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was a huge communist state from 1922 to 1991. It was a superpower that came from the Russian Revolution, a massive territory with many countries ruled by one government, but in 1991 it collapsed and 15 states were formed. It was the end of the Cold War, and the former Soviet countries didn't need the huge stockpiles of weaponry and vehicles anymore, so many chose to sell them off. Viktor Bout bought 3 Antonov An-12 aircrafts and started an air freight business called Aircess in Liberia. His company started working for people like the French government, the United Nations, and the United States. His company was moving African heads of state, food, and soldiers, all completely legally. But at the same time, he got the nickname Sanctions Buster because of the rumors that he was also breaking rules. These rules were put in place by the United Nations, who he was working for at the time. He reportedly moved illegal weapons to Angola, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, where there were conflicts going on. His business grew, and he was supposedly involved in sending arms all around the world. In 2007, the Los Angeles Times ran an article showing that the US government and contractors they worked with ended up paying around $60 million to companies controlled by Bout. American forces relied on him to fly supplies into Iraq for them. It was hard for authorities to prove his involvement with illegal arms dealing, and much of it has not been proven. Bout constantly moved to different countries and changed the registration on his aircrafts, while Belgian authorities put out an arrest warrant for him on money laundering charges. He didn't show up to court, and the warrant was quietly canceled. Eventually, he was arrested in a sting operation in Bangkok, Thailand. He was accused of trying to sell weapons to FARC, a terrorist organization according to the US government. In 2012, he was extradited to the US and sentenced to 25 years in prison. In a strange twist, Brittany Griner, a WNBA star, had been arrested in Russia for possession of illegal drugs. She faced 5 to 10 years in prison. The Secretary of State arranged a deal where she was released in exchange for the release of Viktor Bout. The swap happened in 2022, 10 years after he was first locked up. But this whole situation throws up a bigger question. While Viktor Bout is painted as a supervillain for supplying arms to the wrong people, he also provided arms and aid for the so-called good guys. Organizations like the United Nations and governments like the US government rely on these shady logistics companies because they are the only ones willing to go to these places. These are governments that sell weapons to countries for reasons that their own people don't understand. The weapons destabilize whole regions and kill many people, whichever side you're on. Viktor Bout was a businessman who operated in a gray area, who made his fortune through one of the biggest industries on Earth: war. If you enjoyed this video, then check out another video on the channel about how 2 guys in their early 20s became multi-millionaire gun runners, or so they thought. For more, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel.